Hey guys, what's up? This is Bret. Welcome to this week's edition of Friday on the Turntable. It is getting way hot in Arizona, and I was out all day today, and it is nice to now be in the comfort of some air conditioning as it gets over the 100-degree Fahrenheit mark. So, as you probably already saw from the title of this video, today I'm talking about the band Love and Rockets, and specifically about their 1986 album, Express. Before we get into that, as usual, I'm going to show you some other albums that came out in 1986 to kind of give you some context. New Order's Brotherhood came out in 1986. Bizarre Love Triangle was on this one, I believe. I don't want to say that wrong. Yeah, Bizarre Love Triangle was on that one. Excellent track. Depeche Mode's Black Celebration, excellent. I pulled out a bunch of gems for 1986 here, 5 of them. The Church, Heyday, excellent. Classic, one of my favorite albums of all time. The Smiths, The Queen is Dead, also came out in the year 1986. And last one I'm going to show you here is REM's Life's Rich Pageant, their 4th album. From 1986. It's Love and Rockets. If you're unfamiliar with Love and Rockets, it's a band I have a long history with. Love and Rockets formed after the breakup of Bauhaus. Bauhaus was 4 members. It was Peter Murphy, Daniel Ash, David J., and Kevin Haskins. Kevin Haskins and David J. are brothers. After Bauhaus broke up in 1983, Peter Murphy went on to form a short-lived side project with Mick Karn from the band Japan called Dali's Car. David J. had a solo project, still does, and Kevin Haskins and Daniel Ash formed a band called Tones on Tail, who you can see represented here behind me, with a guy named Glenn Campling, who was Bauhaus's roadie, and he played bass. Tones on Tail put out a couple singles and put out an album, and then at that point, David J. united back with them, and they formed Love and Rockets, so it was a 3-piece. So basically, Love and Rockets is Bauhaus minus Peter Murphy. The sound of Love and Rockets is different from Bauhaus in a couple of different ways. There's a big stereotypical misconception about Bauhaus that they were this doomy, gothic, dreary band, but you know, that's only for people that haven't actually listened to Bauhaus. Bauhaus had a wide spectrum of experimentation. I mean, if you listen to an album, let's say like The Sky Has Gone Out, the kind of spectrum that album runs, you know, from the opening cover of Third Uncle to some of the more acoustic-y, folky stuff like All We Ever Wanted Was Everything to Spirit. I mean, it's just an Exquisite Corpse, which was very experimental. It's just, they get pinned down to a really specific musical point of reference, which is ridiculous. Well, Love and Rockets took those kind of folky elements and really brought into some psychedelic elements to it. So the band was very, very colorful and really produced a pretty extensively good body of work. Now the band is kind of is no longer exists. They reunited a couple of times. The most recent one I think it was for Lollapalooza and maybe Coachella, I don't recall. And they just did a couple shows, and that was it. So this album, Express, came out in 1986, specifically September 15th, 1986. And it was released on Beggar's Banquet in the UK, and here in the US it was released on Big Time. Now what's interesting about this particular album, and if I didn't mention it already, it was their second one. The US version includes their cover of Ball of Confusion, which actually was a single that came out before their first album. But in the US, they put it on the US version of the album on their second one, which was kind of strange, which is just a killer song, Ball of Confusion. It's a cover version of an old Motown classic. And yeah, so it is on the album version. On if you have the UK one, I don't believe Ball of Confusion is on there. So yeah, so this was their second album. And it was produced by a guy named John A. Rivers, who did some of the other Love and Rockets stuff. He did Dead Can Dance, he did Felt, Jazz Butcher, some Clan of Zymox stuff. So yeah, let me pull that one out so you can take a look at it. So there are a couple singles from this album. Kundalini Express was one of them. I believe Yin Yang and the Flower Pot Men was also a single, and then All in My Mind, which was a single. Now, my favorite tracks in this one, number one, first and foremost, are All in My Mind. It was one of the first Love and Rockets song I heard. And yeah, it's a good launching off point. If you were to look it up on YouTube and check out All in My Mind, there's a good video for that. I remember seeing that on MTV's 120 Minutes all the time when I was a teenager. Really great track. And there's also an acoustic version, which is more of a mellow. It doesn't have the big hook that it does. It's a, you know, slower tempo, more ethereal and atmospheric, but nonetheless a great track. It kicks off with It Could Be Sunshine, which starts off just kind of mellow, and then it just kicks into this full-on assault. So in Kundalini Express, I have the 12-inch here, which I figured I'd pull out and show you because I think some of you guys would be interested to know that one of the B-sides for the album is Lucifer Sam, Syd Barrett era Pink Floyd track, which is Love and Rockets did a cover of. So I thought that was a little interesting little tidbit to point out to you guys there. Let me see some other things I wanted to point out on this one. Okay, so let's just get into some other aspects of it. For as far as Love and Rockets goes, you know, I had a hard time choosing which album I wanted to talk about today because their first 4 albums, I think, are all outstanding, and they all offer something different. I was going to feature their first one, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven, because it's such a great great intro to the band, and it kind of shows that, you know, that it's kind of fresh and exciting to listen to that, their first album coming out of Bauhaus, and to hear what they did. And it was so funny because I was out at a record store, or I was out at a bookstore today, and as I was kind of flipping through things, I was thinking, what album am I going to feature today? And then coincidentally, the song Saudade, which is the closing track on this album, which is a beautiful, beautiful instrumental, came on in the store, which was very bizarre because out of all Love and Rockets songs, to hear that one. And it's one of my favorite instrumentals of all time. And that actually came on in the store, which was unusual. So that just told me that, hey, I need to do talk about some Love and Rockets. So this was their first album, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. This is UK, made in England. And then Express, of course, came out. And then this one, Earth, Sun, Moon, which is great. Love the artwork on this one. It has little reproductions of the lyrics on there. And then they had their really big radio hit in 1989 with the song So Alive, and that was from their self-titled album. Really crazy artwork on that one. I believe this was the first one that I ever got. I think I got it on cassette back when it came out in 1989, although Earth, Sun, and Moon, I remember having that on cassette as well, so my memory on that is a little sketchy. But I do remember having both of those on cassette. Let's see what else here I brought out. Okay, so actually I got to see Love and Rockets. I had the opportunity to see them more than I did, but for some reason I didn't. But I saw them twice actually in the same year. I saw them in 1996, and I pulled out one ticket stub. But I saw them on March 24th, 1996. They played at a venue in Tempe, border on the Tempe, Scottsdale, called Club Rio. Back in the 80s, it used to be called the Devil House. I used to go there with my brothers on teen night, and I remember we'd hear like, the Colts, Firewoman, and Beastie Boys, Fight for Your Right to Party, and they would show like Ferris Bueller's Day Off on the Wall, and it was just exciting. So I saw a lot of great shows there. It's now just a parking lot. They tore it down, and nothing's gone up there. But a lot of great memories from there. It was called Club Rio then back in the 90s. And so I saw them there, and actually the band that opened up for them was the Dandy Warhols. So that was really early in the Dandy Warhols career. And Love and Rockets, for this one, they did a really a set filled with a lot of their hits at that time. And then I saw them in August at the same exact venue, and they opened up for Porno for Pyros, which I talked about in my Porno for Pyros feature. And when they opened up for Porno for Pyros, they did more of a deeper catalog, deep tracks of their catalog, and it was a really strange set because they did a lot of more lesser known tracks, but for a fan it was really interesting to see. And then they did a merging of the sets. When Porno for Pyros did Porpoisehead, the guys from Love and Rockets came out, and I think during Love and Rockets set, Stephen Perkins came out and played on Sweet Love or Hangover. So it was really cool. 2 really good shows. So I had the opportunity to see them a couple more times. I don't know why I didn't go. It's kind of disappointing. You just expect bands to be around forever, and they're not, as a point in case. And I also, I had been looking for this, honestly, guys, for years. And I was going through boxes, and sure enough, I was so happy to find it. And here's a paper of Love and Rockets autographs. You can see the little bubble men there too, Bret. And what's interesting, I pulled out another record here because this bubble man is kind of a significant little character in Love and Rockets history. They actually would do these little bizarre little side project where they dressed up in these bumblebees costumes, and they actually released a single called The Bubble Men Rap, The Bubble Men Are Coming in Bees, and this is the 12-inch single for that on Beggar's Banquet. It's a white label promo here. So anyways, I picked this up a couple of years back when I was in Washington. I think I picked this up at Rainy Day Records in Olympia, and the guy actually gave it to me for free because I was buying some other stuff. So that's that. And then the CD version of Express, this was reissued in 2001, and I brought this out to show you because they kept the original UK album intact, and then they put on all the bonus tracks, the B-sides, Ball of Confusion, a different mix, and it has a nice little booklet with some with lyrics and some text from the band and stuff. That was really cool. So that you can also look out. If you're not a vinyl person, definitely check out that CD reissue of that. I often see the first 4 Love and Rockets, the ones I showed you, pretty frequently in record stores, so they are traceable. So if you see any of the ones that I showed, they're all definitely good spots to start in the band's catalog. I remember during the Earth, Sun, and Moon tour, their opening band was Jane's Addiction, which is also another one of my favorites. And so Jane's Addiction was the opening band on that tour. If you've ever seen the Jane's Addiction Soul Kiss video, you'll see a clip of Stephen Perkins playing some percussion on some like pots and pans, and he's wearing an Earth, Sun, Moon t-shirt. I also wanted to pull out one last thing for you guys to see because Mark Mibbertube, a vinyl community member, had showed this. He had recently got it. And a couple years back, what was it, 2009, what label? Fontana, Justice record label, Swing, I don't know, a bunch of labels, got together and put out a tribute album called New Tales to Tell, because there's a track, Love and Rockets, called No New Tale to Tell. And it's an album of cover songs from various bands. It's on red vinyl. I haven't listened to this very much, so I can't give you a recommendation on it either way. But I'll read off some of the bands that are on here because I think it'll interest some people. Black Francis, Frank Black from the Pixies, does All in My Mind, the song I was talking about. A Place to Bury Strangers is on here. The Dandy Warhols, Black Audio, which features Jade and Davey from AFI. Pucifer with the guy from Tool, The Flaming Lips are on here. Better Than Ezra. And then my version here came with a bonus little 7-inch single, which also has a couple other bands. Flaming Lips are on here. Oh wow. And it's got a nice little blue 7-inch here, and it actually has an autographed little card in there as well. So that is a cool little piece, which so if you come across that one, guys, check it out. I think it's probably up on Spotify as well. You can check that out before buying it. But I highly recommend Love and Rockets. You know, the lineage of Bauhaus, Tones on Tail, Love and Rockets, Peter Murphy, all that related stuff is all just beautiful, beautiful music. So I highly recommend it. So yeah, so I was talking about Love and Rockets and 1986 Express album. Many fond memories of this one. Going to the clubs back then. Well, not back in 1986. I was a little too young then. But you know, later on, going to the clubs and hearing stuff like Ball of Confusion and dancing around. Yeah, good times. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll post a link down in the description box with a link to my blog if you're interested in checking out some more Love and Rockets. All the links are where you can purchase or listen or whatever. So thanks, guys.